But first, it's time for the Motivational Monday podcast. Natalia sits down with Jennifer Hildebrandt to learn her journey on how grief gave her a purpose. Take a look.
Okay, we are here with the lovely Jennifer Hildebrandt, and you are familiar. This is not your first time on Kato Living, but this is your first time doing a podcast, right?
Correct.
So you are here to tell us your story. You are a Pilates instructor, but you do not have a traditional route to Pilates. You have a purpose, and I'm curious to hear your story and how you got started into Pilates. Do you want to start us off?
Yeah. I think a more traditional story about Pilates would be a lot of people find it if they've been injured, dancers, athletes, find their way to Pilates. Their doctors or chiropractors or somebody might recommend them start Pilates. And I came to Pilates after my husband died. And I'd been doing Pilates in my living room, with VHS tapes for a few years before that. But after my husband died in 2011, I'd been a hairdresser for about 15 years or so. And when he was sick, I quit working and became his full-time caregiver. And after he died, grief has a funny way of just kind of messing with your brain. And I just decided I'm not going to do hair anymore. I'm going to teach Pilates. And I had no real foundation for that. I didn't know anything about Pilates other than what I had been doing at home to tapes. So that's kind of a nutshell of what got me to the Pilates world.
So what gave you that initial push? I know you had mentioned grief was kind of what set that up, but what were you like, you know what, I'm going to go from hairdresser to Pilates instructor? When was that moment?
Yeah, I think it was pretty, it was relatively shortly after Bob died. Before he got sick, I was in a transition period. I owned a salon and I was working in a salon, and I was at a point where I needed to get bigger. We were in a pretty small space and we were outgrowing that space. And I was also getting burnt out from doing hair and had been thinking about getting into the health and wellness world in some way, shape, or form. And so I was just at that time starting to study for a personal training certification. And then my husband got sick. And so that was I was moving in that direction at the time before he got sick. And then after he died, it was just like, that's it. I'm going to go teach Pilates.
It sounds like grief gave you a purpose in a sense. Do you feel that way?
I would say it does now. It certainly didn't feel like that at the time. At the time, I was just, what am I going to do now? I don't have my salon. I don't have my husband. I'm losing my house. I felt like it wasn't a purpose right away. Like I said, I was just kind of in this weird state. I'm just going to go teach Pilates until I can figure out what else I want to do with my life. And then the more I started learning about Pilates and learning about Joseph Pilates and his whole story, his history, the intent of Pilates, it just became really fascinating to me. And it became more than just exercise. He was very devoted to helping people live their best life, as we would say it now, but very motivated to help people achieve health and wellness, and especially with people who had really broken bodies. He worked with a lot of people from all walks of life, and it's amazing what we're all walking around with, and his work helped so many people, and that kind of started to come into my own teaching, my own path as well.